excited. We are here for a special bonus episode of the podcast, and we are talking about the Hallmark Hall of Fame series, Sarah Plain and Tall. Are you excited, Amber?
I'm excited. This is like baby Amber becoming a Hallmarkie from the womb stuff right here.
This is like foundation level entertainment for you, right?
Yes. Like literally this came out when I was 3 and I remember it vividly.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to talk about it. We have a Hallmark Hall of Fame airing in April, so it's pretty exciting. The Beach House and the Hallmark Hall of Fame, they have been, it's the longest running series in all
existence,
all television ever. Yeah, 65 years of Hallmark Hall of Fame, and I would say that Sarah Plain and Tall is one of their most well-regarded, one of their best that they've ever.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I would, and I think it happened. It's sort of like when Hallmark Hall of Fame went from being just sort of like niche things or like productions of plays to being really well-produced programming. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but that's kind of what it feels like when I look at the history. Like, this is when Hallmark really was like, let's go. So...
Yeah, because this was before there was even a Hallmark Channel. It was just...
Oh, way before.
Yeah,
Hallmark Channel didn't happen until, like, the 2000s.
Yeah. So they were on CBS and usually on a Sunday. And they were kind of well known for having a budget that was feature film worthy. Because for a long time, what we don't understand now is that for a long time, there was like a distinct difference between television and the cinema and movies. Because, so if you were a television actor, that was like, not as good as being a movie actor. And there's still maybe a tinge of that, a little bit of that. But for the most part, that's pretty much done away with. Like, I think that, there's a lot more blending than there used to be. But I think people that are on, say, Game of Thrones are as respected as an actor as somebody on Lord of the Rings or something like that. Like, There's not that same, definition between, this is TV work and TV quality as movie quality. And that used to be a thing. And so Hallmark Hall of Fame stood out and got tons of Emmys and tons of nominations for things because they had a movie budget for a long time. So Sarah Plain and Tall was based on a book by Patricia McLachlan. It's more of a novella. Have you read the book?
I have read the book. And I feel like in the book, there are some differences, mostly with Anna. I feel like the character of Anna in the book is way more welcoming of Sarah and warms to her way quickly. And in the movie, she's kind of like a little brat, which is understandable, but like also just move on with it. But yeah, I really do. I liked the book. It was fun. It's like a good book. It's very sweet.
I remember reading it when I was little. I haven't read it for a while, but I remember thinking it was very sweet. And and then they made this movie, and then they made 2 other films, which we'll talk about as part of this series. And so let's talk about the basic story. So it's set in 1910 in Kansas in the frontier. You have a farmer named Jacob Whitting. He's a widow. He has 2 children, and he has never really recovered from the death of his wife 6 years before, I think in childbirth.
Yeah, and in the book, not that it matters, but it's like 2-3 years before. They just aged up the kids a little bit, which I respect because it's hard to have little kids.
Yeah. So Anna and Caleb are the kids, and he decides to advertise for a mail order bride. And this is a particular favorite storyline of yours.
I love The Mail Order Bride. And this movie does it slightly differently because I like when they are mail order brides, they show up, they get married immediately, then they fall in love. Whereas she still kind of has an out in this one because she shows up and they're like, if you want to get married, we can, but you can also just go home. No pressure.
Yeah. So she's just sort of like, it's a trial run. Yeah, you're right. And she's from Maine.
So she's kind of more like a mail order girlfriend.
And why do you like this trope? What do you like about it?
I don't know. I just like it. I think it's a very interesting way of meeting people. It also really doesn't afford people the opportunity to just quit on the relationship. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes in life, there's the people who would be like, you know what? Forget it. It's just not worth this hassle. I'll go find somebody else. Whereas if they're in these mail order bride scenarios, they're like, well, I'm already committed, so let's figure out how to make this work. And I kind of really love when people have to communicate and figure out how to make things work.
Yeah. Sarah, she writes back that she's plain and tall and that she's going to come. Why do you think that Sarah comes?
Well, she's just looking for a life of her own. She doesn't really have anything that really belongs to her. I mean, she has the aunts who, you know, she could stay and just become an old maid with the aunts, or I'm sure she's welcome with her brother, but that would be adopting the aunt's life or spending or just, you know, staying with her brother. So I think she's really just looking for a place of her own where she can make a difference as opposed to just being someplace where she can exist.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she just knows because she has this man who was courting her in Maine, but she just knows that it's not, this is not going to happen. You know, she gets that inspiration, for lack of a better word, and decides to take a risk and check it out. And I mean, I feel like there's sort of this connotation with mail order brides in a modern sense of sort of like a skeevy kind of sense to it. You know what I mean? But like, you have to think about it in like frontier kind of, it's just a different time.
Rachel, if it were not like a high possibility that I would be sold into white slavery, I would figure out a way to be a mail order bride now.
Yeah. So any widowers, let us know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys, the real dream in life is to find like a eligible widower with 2 young sons. Like, that is my dream. If you know of anyone, I'd move.
Switch it to daughters, and I'm with you. So yes, so I think she's just sort of lonely, and she wants to have an adventure, and she gets there, and she's just a big challenge for Jacob because she wants to do everything, including like plowing the fields, and I mean, it's interesting because does it seem like a strange thing from a modern perspective, somebody who would be a mail order bride, which from a modern perspective seems like a submissive thing to do, would be this like somewhat sort of proactive kind of feminist type character. You know, that's sort of an interesting dynamic, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is though, like, it's not like women don't work in the West. I mean, that's part of the thing that got people through, is that everybody did what they could and did their share. That's part of the reason why I love the old-timey West and pioneer spirit.
But she feels in a way though that's like difficult for Jacob, at least at first, I feel like.
But the problem here is that he was expecting her to be like his wife Catherine.
Yeah.
Who was a very, from what I can gather, like a very sweet, small, little, gentle woman who was just like, I just want to hold my babies and stay indoors where it's not too hot and like gentle. I mean,
yeah.
So I think he was just anticipating she would be like Catherine, and she's just not. She's just Sarah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think ultimately the fact that she is so different helps, you know, their relationship to be better, because otherwise he would just always be comparing her to Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know.
Well, it creates a lot of conflict between them, which adds to makes it interesting. It would be a boring movie if she was exactly the same. So let's dive into sort of more of the characters a little bit more. So we have Glenn Close playing Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a really good role. I wouldn't describe her as plain. It's just too, but she certainly is tall, so she fits the role there. And then you have Christopher Walken as Jacob, and that's sort of the unusual casting. Christopher Walken, you don't think of him as being this kind of role. He's usually in comedies, but I think he's actually won an Oscar, if I'm not mistaken. So so he's done a lot of different things.
I don't necessarily think of him as
he won an Academy.
I don't think of him as a comedic actor.
He won an Academy Award for his portrayal
in the Deer Hunter.
So, but I feel like maybe it's just I'm so used to seeing him in Saturday Night Live and in a lot of different things that I think of him as, so maybe it's just me. I think of him as a more comedic actor, and
because I'm like, I can only really think of him as in Deer Hunter and The Dead Zone and like Sleepy Hollow, and then I'm like, well, and I grant you he's in Hairspray, but like the rest of it, I was like, is he?
Yeah. So it's an interesting. He's usually not the romantic lead, at the very least. He's usually more of a character actor. So it's an interesting situation for him. And he. What do you think about his performance?
He does a really great job. He's so Christopher Walken in it that he's just Christopher Walken. And I think maybe part of the reason why I feel fine with all of the casting is that, I mean, literally this is my first exposure to pretty much everyone in this movie. I don't really know of anything that I would have seen either of them in other than this at the time I was 3. Like, sure. I wasn't watching The Deer Hunter when I was 3. So, but so it works for me. I think he does have a look of a sort of weather-beaten farmer in this movie, which really works.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you think about their chemistry?
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know. Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, I think that they both have a certain curtness to them that sort of fits in a weird way. Like, because he could seem kind of cruel if she wasn't strong enough. So it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you have Lexie Randall as Anna. Mm-hmm. And you said that she's kind of difficult. But I don't know. I really related to that because I definitely would be that. I would have been that way for sure if this same situation happened to me as a kid. Just because I was.
I mean, she's difficult, but not horrible either, which is a good thing.
It makes sense because like her father isn't allowing her to like really grieve and like deal with her emotions. So like it makes sense that she is like super resistant and super untrusting because she hasn't been allowed. It's not a communicative home. It's not a like there's this whole plot point of the thing where they have all of their mother stuff in this what do you call it, trunk or whatever. And they're not allowed to talk about their mother. They're not allowed to. And so I think that that's just really hard for kids. And I just think that you would feel all the more like not only are you replacing my mother, but I haven't even been able to like, we haven't even been able to talk about her. We haven't even been able to, you know.
Yeah.
I like her character, and I think that the actress does a pretty good job.
Yeah, she really does. She's in other stuff.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, but she's in The War, I know, or just, The War,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of other things. Sarah Pointon 3, we'll just call it that for right now, is her last thing, and she didn't really do too much, but I think she was really great in this, and in, her other little short, tiny career as a kid. So she's great. And then also Caleb, who's Christopher Bale, is so precious.
Yeah.
And I think they do a really good job of being like a brother and sister. And I think Caleb does a really good job of just being like a precious kid who just wants to love people. Yeah. So I think the kids are really great. What do you think about Caleb?
Yeah, he's super, super charming, super adorable, super loving. He has no problem, no resentment towards Sarah. And there are those, my sister Anna, when cause she was born when I was 10. So I really got to see her as a little child, a little girl. And she was just like this kind of character, this kind of person who, like, we would go on a flight and she'd like go through the aisles looking for somebody to talk to and someone to be friends with. And she'd make a friend by the end of the flight. Like she was just so open that way with things. And so I kind of think that Caleb's sort of like that. Mm-hmm. He would do that. So I like that. Whereas I was more like I was a very independent and very opinionated kid. But so I certainly wasn't shy by any means with my opinion or things that I thought, but I don't know. I was just different than like this, just like super loving. Like my first word was stop. I didn't want people to sing to me. Because I wanted, I was just not a super lovey-dovey kind of kid. And so I don't know, it's interesting how they are, but I thought he was really cute for sure.
And side note, my first word was self.
Oh, really? That's an unusual one.
As in, I want to do it myself.
Oh, see, you're like me, very independent, except for you were like positive, and I was like, stop singing to me.
I was like, how dare you? I'm gonna do it myself. Yeah. And that is very funny now because I'm like, if I were mean then, I'd be like, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. Like kids have it like super luxurious. They get all their meals cooked for them. They get driven around everywhere. It's pretty good. So they kind of battle back and forth. There's there's a neighbor farm, Maggie, and that lives next door, that's pregnant, that kind of gets involved, and they kind of, there's just sort of this battle of wills throughout the course of the movie between Jacob and Sarah.
Yeah.
And
they, figure it out and fall in love, and they go down the hay dune, and
because
Seal is the cutest cat in the universe, and
because she misses her dune,
the dunes.
And so he creates a hay dune. It's very cute. And then there is a dramatic sequence. There's a tornado, and she's like trying to find Seal. And he's like, "Get covered! You're gonna die!" And she just has like a nervous breakdown, basically.
Yeah.
And she's very upset about the sheep, and he's like, they're not, they're not pets, and then she gets out all the stuff from the trunk, and so that's also a battle of wills, and I don't know. So there's just a lot of really dramatic scenes, and it's really good. And in the end, you think that she's going away. That she's going to go back because she's homesick for Maine, and the end of the trial run has come. You think she's going back. Anna is very upset, and Jacob races after her on his steed, and finds out that nope, she was actually turning in her ticket. So it's very exciting. It's a pretty good ending.
And all is well.
Yeah. And I feel like this one does a pretty good job of just like like we've complained about hair and things like that in When
Oh
Falls
yeah,
Apart.
it's very good
Yeah.
as far as costuming goes.
Yeah.
Everything's covered in dirt. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's talk about the second one.
Okay, Skylark.
Skylark. So this was 93, so 2 years later. And so they're having this horrible drought at the farm. Horrible drought. And so Sarah and the kids go to Maine to visit her family and to survive, basically, because there's just no food. And Jacob is left there, and there's a part of him that's afraid that she won't want to come back. This is where you meet her other suitor, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna meet him, and you're gonna meet the aunts, and you get to meet her brother and all of that in Maine. And what do you think about this? Just the setup for this one. What do you think about the drought and everything?
I think it's interesting. I feel like watching it back, I was kind of like, ugh, just go to Maine already, for Pete's sake. Like, if the farm's gonna die, just give up for a while.
Got another place to live? Just go live there.
Yeah, just, like, oh, you don't even have to sell your farm. Just like leave it vacant for a minute till it rains. Like, it's ridiculous, I know, but I was kind of like, just do it.
Yeah.
But no, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not as good as the first one, frankly.
It's not as good because there's just not as much story. There's not as much conflict. There's not as much story. They try to kind of bring conflict with the fact that Sarah is pregnant, and and she keeps writing to Jacob, and is she going to stay in Maine, which seems like not much of a conflict, because why would she, not only is she pregnant, but also she has his children.
Yeah, and like if she was gonna stay in Maine, like he'd come. He comes anyway, but like
yeah.
He'd just show up eventually. He wouldn't be like, okay, I'm just gonna die here on my little farm.
Yeah.
Like, he would just come. It'd be fine.
Yeah.
But so basically this one's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite of the Sarah Plainenthal ones, but it's fine. The aunts are really fun.
Yeah.
They're funny. I kind of wish we had spent more time with them than we do in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we spent less time suffering and more time walking around in barefoot and lace, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, it probably would have been good to, like, I don't know, throw in some side romance or some side plot, or there's just not quite enough story here, but it's fine. It's because just the acting is so good, and there's still chemistry, and I love, the ocean is like my favorite, and so I enjoy it for that. And the kids are 2 years older, but they're cute, and and get to when he does finally come back, it's good. And is this the one where there's a fire, or is that the next one?
It's this one.
Okay, yeah. So there's the big fire on the farm, and that's pretty intense. And so yeah, it's fine.
But like, when really, honestly, the whole big plot of the movie is it gonna rain?
Yeah,
that's not interesting to me.
Right? Yeah.
If it's something that people have zero control over, I mean,
yeah.
It's not even like, oh, they're trying to survive a volcano. Like, when there's a volcano, you have some agency over what happens, because you can leave or run. But, like, if you're just like, come on, rain, let's do this. Like, you just can't do anything.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like it's just the setting, and then you have to create interesting characters and conflict and things. Like The Grapes of Wrath is basically set during the same time, But
the Grapes of Wrath isn't. Is it gonna rain? The Grapes of Wrath is like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with our lives. We got to figure something out.
Yeah.
How do we do this? Maybe this, maybe this. I don't know. Rosa Sharn, don't breastfeed that old man. But anyway, this
characters.
Is, like, honestly, the whole thing is, well, who do you think's gonna decide to go to Maine first? Us or the rain? Like,
yeah,
they're just waiting out clouds.
And then she says, "Oh well, I'm never gonna go back to Maine," and it's like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, like, what's wrong with Maine? Nothing.
I mean, it didn't seem like it was that much of it. If you could manage to financially like make it happen during a drought, like I would think that
he's like, I'm part of this land, and I'm like, well, guess what? Maine is actually part of the same land. Like, we're on the same continent.
Like, I understand that, like, your like pride of ownership and stuff like that, but like, I think that if you have a place to go when there's an emergency, then you should go there. Like, whatever the emergency is, like if you have a safe place, go to the safe place.
Rachel, we're too practical to own a farm.
Evidently. I mean, if anyone knows me, I have like a complete black thumb. My mom did not pass her gardening skills on to me. I was so sad. I bought these herbs, these potted herbs last year, and I was like, this would be so good. I'm right there for recipes and stuff. And I guess I overwatered them because I was trying really hard to water them. They were just dead. I cannot keep anything alive to save my life. I'm like, it's a good thing I don't own any pets because my track record with like plants is not good. But anyway, so yeah, I would not be a good farmer in any stretch of the imagination. My mother would be the best farmer's wife ever. And
yes.
Yeah. No, really, like she would be the best. And one time we went to this dude ranch for this family reunion. It was the worst. And my sister and I
dare you?
No, my sister and I spent the entire time watching The Nanny and just like laughing because it was just not my thing. There was no.
Where was this dude ranch?
It was in Adamone, Utah.
The Rockin' R Ranch?
In the middle of nowhere. It was
the Rockin' R Ranch?
I think that was called. It was awful.
100% it was the Rockin' R Ranch in Adamone, Utah. I've been there. It's the best.
Oh, I
Did you go in that thing where it's like a big slingshot, but you're a person?
No, I don't think they had that when I went.
Did you go on a horse riding trail?
I went on a horse riding trail, and I have like anxiety about animals, and especially big animals that I'm not like familiar with. Like if it's a dog that I know, then I'm okay. But I was so scared, and I thought that it was just going to be like clipping along because it said like very beginners trek or whatever. And so I'm like, I'll be a sport. I'm not interested in this at all, but I'll be a sport and I'll go for this. Anyway, but it was not just like going around the track. We went like down and through a creek at one point.
Yeah, through the creek.
I was terrified. Like I'm not exaggerating.
Rachel.
I was so scared. And the only reason I didn't like lose it was because my brother was the horse ahead of me. And at the time he was like 12. I was like a total adult. And that was all there was to do there, was just ride the horses.
What about the rope? Did they not have bales of hay set up that you could pretend to learn how to rope? They did. You just didn't do any of this fun stuff because you were like, I'm going to watch The Nanny.
No,
Did they throw a little line dancing dance for you?
No, that I'm sure they didn't do. And there was one night where we could go watch fireworks, and my whole family left without me, and I had no idea where they were, and we had no cell service. I was like, oh, that's great. And it was not the vacation for me. I really didn't.
Okay, that's it. We're going to have a Skylark family reunion. We're going to invite all the Hallmarkies. We're going to go to the Rockin' Our Ranch. And you're going to have fun.
No.
Yes.
They were like super, super food Nazis about the food. You were only allowed like one helping of this like super lame food. It was like a bologna sandwich with like Wonder Bread and bologna. And like they had like a guy there who was like guarding the food. And if you took more, so we would like, because like my cousins who were like these, young men who would like need to eat more food, like they were like starving. And so we would have to get like more than we needed so that we could give it to them. And I don't know, I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. I didn't think it was fun. It was, but I gave it a shot. I did the horses that one time, and I did not think it was fun, and I thought it was terrifying. And there was no place to swim. If they'd had a swimming hole, then I would have been very happy, because that's what I love to do. But there was no place to swim, and I don't know. I just don't like it. What I was saying is that my mom, she was like, I could never live in the small town that this ranch is in.
Yeah.
There was like a gas station, and that was it, and no like cell service or anything. And I was telling my mom, I'm like, I could never live out here. And my mom was like, I could live out here, but I couldn't live out here with you. Like, that is a true statement.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I don't know. It was not for me.
I loved the Rockin' Our Ranch.
So you like horseback riding?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But you know what I do love? Other things. Like line dancing.
You love line dancing, huh?
It was really fun. I'm just mad at you for hating it.
No. Nobody in my family liked it. Except for my mom. It was not for the Wagners. It was not our cup of tea.
We did it for youth conference.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
It was the best. When we went over the creek, a girl fell in off of her horse, got mud all over her place.
Oh my gosh.
It was her first activity with our ward. I
was so terrified that would happen to me. So I was just like,
what's the worst case scenario, Rachel?
Clinging on to your life.
What's the worst case scenario if you fall off that horse when it's walking slowly?
And I like, you don't have any anxieties about things. I have anxieties about large animals and like unfamiliar animals. And
how do you know I don't have anxieties about things, you big bully assumer?
Well, I mean, you're the one accusing me of like, so of course I had anxiety about it. It was not fun for me.
I'm trying to work you through your fear of horses.
And it was just way too hard for me, and it was too long for me. I was thinking it was just going to be like a little thing around the track, kind of get used to the horse, and it was like this, like going up and down ravines. I was like, oh my gosh. It was way more than I had bargained for. So,
well, we'll prepare you, and then we'll have our own family reunion for all of the Hallmarkies, and you have to go.
Oh, can we at least go someplace where there's somewhere to swim?
No, we're going to the freaking Rockin' Our Ranch.
No, I don't want to go there.
Ruth will go. Ruth will go with me.
Yeah, I'm sure Ruth will have fun. Is the third in the series of the Sarah Plaintill.
Yes.
And this was in 99, so a pretty big gap.
Yeah.
Between the second and the third, 6 years. And in this one, it's called Winter's End.
Mm-hmm. And they actually combine like the last 3 books.
Okay.
Into this one.
It's pretty unusual that all 3 in the whole series are all Hall of Fame, I feel like. I don't think that's true for like Love Comes Softly. I don't think all of them.
I don't think any of the Love Comes Softlies are Hall of Fame.
I thought the first one was.
I don't believe so.
Oh, I thought it was, but okay. But yeah, all 3 of these were Hall of Fame. And in this one, they have basically the plot is that you have Jacob, and he comes into contact with his father, who abandoned his family, and so Jacob's very bitter.
Yeah, and his father is Jack Palance.
Yep. And
he actually does make a really good, like, father of Christopher Walken. Like, that casting was fun.
Yeah, agreed. And basically, like, they're really estranged. They struggle. Sarah's more open to bringing, Jack bringing the father into their life. There's also a romance between Anna and her soldier boyfriend that is kind of sweet. And I don't know. What do you think about this one?
This one is really lame for me. The Jack Palance stuff, I was just like not that into. It was really fun seeing Emily Osment as a cute little kid. Because she's grown up to do other stuff, so it was kind of fun seeing her as a little baby. I was really excited to see World War I represented on a prairie show. No shade, no tea at One Calls the Heart. But really, it's kind of boring, frankly, being like, hey, sorry I abandoned you. Well, you're not forgiven. Well, I'm going to make you forgive him. Fine. Like, that's basically I don't know. I didn't like that.
Yeah, and Jacob gets, like, injured, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that kind of forces him to, let his father in, but he's very conflicted. So they tried to have more conflict in this one than the last one, I think you could say. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Yeah, it was a little bit boring. I agree. But it was okay.
It's my least favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all fine. I don't love them. Mm-hmm. I didn't love this one.
Yeah.
I love Sarah Plain and Tall. Love it with a deep emotion that people reserve for, like, childhood friends.
Yeah.
But, it's a TV show.
I'm going to give it 5 crowns. The first one. For sure.
Would I give it 5 crowns? I feel like I don't feel like I gave it 5 crowns. Let me see. I gotta Google. How many crowns did I give it? I gave it 4.5 crowns.
Why would you give it 4.5 crowns?
There are just some things that don't quite work for me. I don't know. Anna is, like, a little bit too much of a grumpy pants for me. I don't know. Just things like that. It just, I don't love it. I mean, I love it. Obviously, 4.5 is a really good score, but I only gave it 4.5.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's pretty, well, I can't imagine them doing it really much better. And so, I don't know. I was going to give it 5 crowns, but now I feel like I don't like it as much as you, and you not giving me 5 crowns.
Rachel, stop always trying to base your crowns off me. Live your own life.
All right, I give it 5 crowns. I think it's really good. I think it's about as good as you could expect to get from a Hallmark movie. So
cool.
There you go. And then I would probably give the other ones. I'd probably give the second one, like, I don't know, like 3.5. It's fine.
I actually I gave Scarlet 3.7.
Okay. And then the third one, I would give it like maybe 3.25.
Yeah, I gave the third one 3.
Yeah.
I mean,
so there
really,
you go.
When it all comes down to it, we're not that far off. And it's better than a lot of things that we've reviewed on the podcast, especially Mr. Christmas. Yeah. But I really love the first one, and the other two are, like, a little probably higher than they should be just by association.
Yeah, probably. And the cast, I think they're well made. They're well cast, and that goes a long way, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, there you go. Well, let us know what you think of Sarah Plain and Tall, or which one do you like, and put in the comments section or on Twitter. Let us know. And thanks so much. There's always lots of fun stuff happening in the world of Hallmark. And so make sure you catch our podcast and we'll be talking about next. And thanks so much. And Amber, where can people find you?
As always, I'm at Amber Brainwaves on Twitter, and that's it.
Yeah, awesome. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube. Following us at Hallmarkies Pod on Twitter and Instagram and other social medias, and we're all over the place. So make sure you follow us. And thanks so much, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye,
Bye everybody.